The bride suddenly drew a gun and fired straight at the groom's father, right in the middle of the banquet. The gunshot cracked through the air, as if tearing apart the wedding day itself. The joyful music went silent, replaced by screams of panic that echoed through the crowded hall. Bright red blood spread across the floor, soaking into the white tablecloth that was meant for raising glasses in celebration. The townspeople, who had just moments ago been eagerly watching the ceremony, now fled in chaos, while the groom, a young cowboy, stood frozen, his heart shattered, his eyes locked on the woman who had just pledged her vows to him. What could possibly drive a bride to pull the trigger at the most sacred moment of her life? And you will not believe the secret that lies beneath. Like and subscribe to see what happens next. He was a cowboy in his 30s, with a sunburned face and eyes that carried the scars of years spent wandering across the harsh frontier. For so long, he drifted from ranch to ranch, trading sweat and blood for a few coins, all for a simple dream: to hang up his old revolver, to find a home, and to have someone waiting for him beneath the glow of a warm lamp on a cold night. He believed that today's wedding was the beginning of that dream. But his heart was far too trusting. The gentle bride, with her sparkling eyes and sweet promises, made him overlook the moments when she stayed silent too long about her past. Overlook the cold glint that sometimes flashed like a blade. Perhaps she only fears the future, he once told himself, quickly smothering every doubt. When the gunshot rang out, the world he had built in his imagination collapsed. The woman he had just entrusted with his life was now the one who killed his father. The townspeople screamed, "Hang her now! She is a demon in human skin." He stood frozen, unable to breathe inside the whirlpool of fate. And it was then, as he bent over his father's lifeless body, that he discovered a blood-soaked letter hidden in the pocket. The shaky handwriting revealed a terrible truth. His father had once committed a ruthless crime. Now the question was not only why the bride pulled the trigger, but also what sins his father had been hiding all along. The bride stood surrounded by angry townsfolk, her white wedding gown now filthy with dust and splattered with blood. Her eyes blazed, fierce and sorrowful, not the gaze of a cold-blooded killer, but the fire of a soul scorched by the past. In that moment, the cowboy saw both sides of her, the hardened steel on the surface, and deep inside, the trembling pain. She could not escape the horrifying images that haunted her. The house burning down, black smoke choking the night sky, her mother's desperate screams, the sobs of her little brother before he was shot dead. And then the thunder of hooves fading away, leaving behind the mark of a flag, the emblem of the groom's father's gang. From that day, the little girl became a widow of her own past, hiding her true name, swallowing her pain, finding her way into the cowboy's life. Every gentle smile, every promise of happiness, all just to wait for this very moment when the gun would fire. The cowboy's chest ached with fury and sorrow. He wanted to shout, "Why did you not tell me?" but his dry lips refused to move. He was furious at her betrayal, but also tormented by the despair he saw in her eyes. In an instant, he understood. The enemy she aimed at was his own blood. The crowd screamed again. "Hang her now! Do not let her breathe another minute." The townsfolk dragged her toward a makeshift gallows. But before she was shoved away, she raised her head, her voice sharp as a knife. "It was not only him. Your entire bloodline is stained with the blood of my family." The words silenced the square. The cowboy's heart went cold, as if the ghosts of his ancestors were standing right behind him. It turned out the crimes did not end with his father, but had tainted his entire family. The pounding of hooves shattered the tense silence. From the end of the dusty road, a group of gunmen rode into town, their shadows stretching long in the twilight. Familiar faces, once allies who had fought beside his father, now appeared with eyes as cold as ice. The townspeople recognized them, hurriedly closing doors, pulling down curtains, whispering, "The wolves have returned." Their leader barked, "Hand over the woman. Anyone who shields her will share her fate." The small town split in two. Some shouted to surrender the bride to save themselves, while others whispered that justice could not be buried at gunpoint. Tension rose, threatening to drown the place in blood. The cowboy stood in the storm of chaos, his heart torn apart. On one side was his family, his blood, and his name. On the other was his new bride, the woman who had killed his father but carried a righteous cause. The townspeople shouted, "Choose, young man, your bloodline or that treacherous woman." He gripped his gun, sweat running down his temple. His father's old voice echoed in his mind, "Never turn your back on family." But another, quieter voice whispered, "Justice is not bound by blood." At that suffocating moment, a figure stepped out from the ranks of the gunmen. A wide-brimmed hat shadowed half his face, but the raspy voice froze the cowboy in place. "Nephew, it is time you learned the truth." It was his uncle. The man sneered, his eyes deep with schemes. In that instant, the cowboy realized it was not only the bride, his family too had been hiding a monstrous secret. The leader of the gang was his own uncle, the man who would gladly kill his nephew to keep the family's sins buried. The bride's voice cut through the wind, trembling yet firm. "Your father and his gang burned down my home. My parents' blood, my brother's cries, all under the guns of your family. I married you only to get close and pull the trigger for them." The cowboy felt as if lightning struck him. Her words slashed into his heart like knives. He staggered, whispering, "So it was all a trap?" Yet deep in her eyes, he saw more than hatred. He saw the agony of a soul crushed for far too long. Bending over his father's body, he remembered the letter stained with blood. The unfinished confession, trembling words of guilt, a wish to atone, a promise to reveal the truth one day. But his father never had the chance. The cowboy clenched the letter, his chest tightening. He raised his head and met his uncle's mocking eyes. Suddenly, everything fell into place. It was his uncle who stopped his father from confessing. The man did not want the truth exposed, because it would destroy the power he had built. The cowboy whispered to himself, "So, my love was a trap, but my family, they are the true criminals." His uncle's raspy laugh echoed, "Your father was weak. He wanted to confess, to ruin everything I built, but now he is dead, and soon you both will be too. This secret will be buried in blood." Mini-wow. The father's death was only the beginning. The uncle was the real puppeteer, now determined to kill them both to erase all traces. Night fell over the wilderness, the cold moonlight shadowing two riders on the run. The cowboy and the bride galloped through dust and wind, pursued by pounding hooves and endless gunfire. Bullets whistled past, striking the earth in bursts of dirt. The cowboy gripped the reins tight, his heart racing. What should I do? Leave her to survive? Or risk my life to protect the woman who destroyed my family? Cold sweat ran down his back. His hands trembled. But a fierce determination lit his eyes. They found an abandoned ranch. The rotting wooden doors creaked in the wind, cobwebs draped across the rafters, dust hanging thick in the air. The cowboy pulled her inside, set his rifle at the broken window, and took a deep breath. Exhausted but unyielding, the bride reloaded her gun, her voice breaking, "If this is our fate, I would rather die fighting." Gunfire thundered, shaking the ranch in smoke and fire. The cowboy stormed out, taking down one enemy after another, every shot fueled by pent-up rage. She moved with deadly grace, her eyes blazing, seeking both vengeance and redemption. Bodies fell, horses screamed, chaos spread. When it seemed the fight was turning, a raspy laugh pierced the smoke. The uncle emerged, dragging a hostage, a blade pressed to their throat. The cowboy froze. It was the only loved one he had left, the person he had sworn to protect with his life. The uncle's final move. Using the cowboy's kin as a hostage, forcing him into the cruelest choice yet. Silence hung heavy. The uncle tightened his grip, his voice a snarl. "Put the gun down, boy, or the one you love dies." The cowboy's hand shook on the trigger. Beside him, the bride cried out, her voice echoing through the ruined house. "Stop! I am not just a woman of vengeance. I am the rightful heir to this land. Your family stole it in blood, but the law and justice are on my side." All eyes turned to her. The cowboy staggered, his heart pounding. All his life, he had lived and taken pride in land that never truly belonged to him. The ground beneath his feet was hers. His entire world flipped upside down. His love, his family, his name, all were built on theft. The uncle roared, "Fool, whatever papers you hold, once you are dead, no one will dare speak of the truth." The cowboy looked at her. In her fierce gaze, he saw not only vengeance, but the light of justice. She leaned close, whispering, "You fire straight. I will distract him. This is our only chance." The final battle erupted. The cowboy charged headlong, gun blazing. The bride moved like a shadow, striking from behind. Together, they trapped the uncle, ending his laughter with a single gunshot. The gang collapsed in chaos. As the smoke cleared, the cowboy gasped for breath, staring at the bride, the woman who had just helped him turn the tide. But triumph was quickly swallowed by a deeper question. Could he love her when she was the rightful owner of this land, and he carried the blood of thieves? Dawn rose, casting golden light over fields soaked in blood. The cowboy stood silent, driving his gun into the earth as if burying the past. Beside him, the bride dropped the weapon that had haunted her life. Her eyes filled with both sorrow and hope. They chose to break free from hatred. Together, they rebuilt from ashes, mending burned houses, opening dried streams, planting seeds on land once drenched in blood. The townsfolk slowly returned, seeing in them the spark of a new beginning. But the scars in their hearts never faded. Many nights, the cowboy woke to the echo of that gunshot at the wedding, the image of his father falling. The bride sometimes wept in silence when dreams dragged her back to her lost family. They smiled together, yet deep inside, a bitterness lingered. Still, from that pain, they learned to grow stronger. Every fence they built, every field they ploughed, was proof of their will to turn hatred into life. The land, once a symbol of blood and crime, slowly became a place of peace, where cattle grazed freely and children laughed beneath the sunday. The cowboy held her hand, both gazing toward the horizon. They knew that justice on the frontier was never simple, and that today's peace was only temporary. Beyond the horizon, other shadows still lurked, and secrets yet untold waited to be revealed. In this unforgiving Wild West, justice is never simple, and their story is only the beginning of secrets still waiting beyond the horizon.